If you do have a camera, if you can turn your cameras on so I can see your faces. We're gonna do kind of a little introduction here since I haven't met any of you yet. I want to know who you are, where you're from and all that. If you don't have a notebook yet, if you can go grab a notebook or some blank pieces of paper and a pencil, we're going to be working throughout this lesson today. So you guys will be jotting a lot of stuff down. So you'll want to have that ready. So really quick, a little bit about me as folks arrive. I work down in Belen, New Mexico. So some of you may not have been down that far. I work at Whitfield Wildlife Conservation Area. So basically my classroom is outside. So I'm outside all the time and I love to learn about what's going on outside. And I know you guys are learning a lot about climate change. And Fiona's talked to you about some important things that are going on outside. And so that's my main job. So sitting over a screen and seeing you guys is weird to me, and I'm sure this is an adjustment for you all as well. But the nice thing is we're able to connect from all different places of New Mexico. So I'm kind of excited to see where you all are from and what you're learning. I've been an environmental educator now for 10 years. So boy, I'm getting old. And I work a lot with Sarah. We are in a fellowship program learning how to get you guys more access and resources to understand what's going on outside. So we're excited about that. And I'm going to be working with you all for a couple weeks, and we're going to really be understanding and looking at the changes of the Rio Grande. And raise your hand if you call it the Rio Grande River. So just raise your hand if you've heard somebody say when they're referring to the Rio Grande River. You can give me a little, you can raise your hand literally, or you can give me a raise hand motion. Yeah. So when you say Rio Grande River, you're actually saying Big River. So you can always laugh and correct folks now from when they say Rio Grande River to just say the Rio Grande, and it's saying Big River. So that's what it refers to. Just kind of a fun little pun before we get started. All right, so what I'd like to do is I'm going to add in the chat box little prompts on how I'd like you guys to introduce yourself, since I don't know who you are. So you know who I am. My name is Allison. I work at Whitfield. I'm an environmental educator. And so what I like you to tell me, and you can write this down if your notebook, if it helps make it easier, who you are, where you are from, what grade level you are in, and what you learned stuck out as important in the last 2 weeks. So I want you to think about something that stuck in your head, like an aha moment, like, whoa, I didn't realize that. And we're gonna do this popcorn style. So I'm gonna start with you, Jackson, because you're right next to me on my screen. So I'll start with you, and what I'll have you do is, let me put those questions. Can everybody see those? So you can refer to those. So I want you to answer those, Jackson, and then I want you to popcorn and pick on someone else, and they'll unmute, and then someone else until we get through everyone. So this will be my way to get to know you guys and where your interests are with some of the things that you're learning about the environment. And that will help us get started. So Jackson, if you can quickly take the floor and answer those questions.
I'm Jackson Wolf. I'm from Santa Fe. I'm in 6th grade. And what I learned or stuck out as important in the last 2 weeks was that that pikas are such a major part of the ecosystem that they have so many like different things that they can do, that their pea crystallizes and says lichen on it. Nothing gets on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, they're very integral and they're a component of everything else. So it's kind of to see how everything is connected. All right, Jackson, can you pick on someone to unmute?
Faith.
All right, Faith.
Okay, my name is Faith Schweitzer. I live in Las Lunas. I'm in 7th grade. And my favorite thing that we've discussed in the last 2 weeks is, well, the thing that fascinates me the most is how wildfires affect the wildlife habitat and the human health.
Yeah, really, really good point. It affects more than one species and they're all interconnected. So kind of the same point, but a different part of the environment. That's awesome. Do you want me to help you pick on someone, Faith?
Popcorn Naomi.
Naomi, okay, you're up.
My name is Naomi. I am in 8th grade. I live in Albuquerque, and the thing that like stuck out to me most this week or like past 2 weeks is like the similar. We didn't specifically learn about this, but I kind of put it together while we were learning about the picas. Is that they're very similar to like chinchillas because both of them are cute, fuzzy. They live in like rocky areas of the mountains, and they both like depend much on like the temperature. They both like cooler, and they have to make sure they stay cool, or else like they don't feel good, and they can't get too hot or can't get too cold. They have to be in like a very specific temperature zone.
So really specific climate change would disrupt them. Excellent point. All right, who are you going to popcorn?
Ariana.
All right, Ariana, you're up.
Hi, my name is Mariana. I'm from El Rancho, New Mexico. What grade am I? I think I'm in grade 9. What I learned or what stuck out as important to me in the last 2 weeks was, well, I pretty much liked everything, but what I would say is the picas were very interesting to learn about, like how they have to adapt to the temperatures of their atmosphere, and how animals habits change as the world changes due to global warming. So that pretty much all stuck out for me. And I will pass it on to Audrey.
All right, Audrey, you're up.
Okay. Hi, my name is Audrey. I live in Tijeras, New Mexico. I'm in 8th grade. Something that stuck out to me was the wildfires. I never knew like they had such a big impact, and what really caused them. And then the picas, they were just really adorable.
They are, right? And once we get connected to them, we want nothing to happen. All right. Can you popcorn someone? We still have
Jonathan.
All right, Jonathan.
My name is Jonathan. I'm from El Rancho, New Mexico. I'm in the 5th grade. Something that stuck out as important. I guess how whatever we do affects another type of animal in some way or another.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to think about, but even if we don't see it right away, we see that effect over the years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so important. All right, I think we still have at least one more, right? Layla?
That's so.
All right, let's popcorn Layla. Did I say that right?
Yes, sorry.
Go ahead. That's nice to
My
see your
name
face.
is Layla. I live in Albuquerque. I'm in 6th grade, and one thing that stuck out to me is I think it's kind of cool that rabbits and picas are similar.
Yeah, rabbits and they're like, give me an example. How are they similar? With the food they eat, where they live, how they hunt?
How they eat, I think, is similar.
Did I just say how they hunt? And I thought of rabbits. Wait, rabbits are herbivores, right?
Monty Python rabbits everywhere.
All right. Did anybody not go? I'm looking at my screen. I think I got everybody. Sarah, you can help me.
No, we got everybody. I just wanted to pipe in and say I love that everybody loved the pikas so much, and I loved reading over all of the information that Fiona sent to you because I didn't even know they existed, to tell you the truth. And so it was very enlightening. But they are so cute.
They are.
Yeah, they really
I
are.
actually read through all that stuff too. So it's always neat to kind of learn about something we didn't know about and then get connected with it. It's so fun. Okay, guys. Well, so I don't want you to forget any of that stuff you've learned about because we are going to hone in on a specific habitat today. And today and the next couple weeks, we're going to be recreating the river. So today you're going to be doing it. We're going to be watching a video of me, which is weird because I'm in the video, but you guys will be working in the video. I'll pause it a few times just to make sure everybody's caught up, but I won't be able to see you if I put it on full screen as far as I'd noticed, but you guys won't need to see me during the video because you'll be busy working and learning throughout the video. So it's very interactive. It's 23 minutes long. And what you're going to do is you're going to learn about the history of the Rio Grande, and you're going to really focus in on the habitats, the wildlife habitats and the plant habitats. And you're going to find that the habitats are very specific to that area. So if you go to the river, you'll see these giant trees. And these giant trees are cottonwood trees. And cottonwood trees grow only near the river. And there's a reason for that. So you're going to learn all about that particular habitat. And you're going to recreate this river during the video. And afterwards, you guys are going to make a 3D model of what you created on your paper, but then you're going to expand on it. And Sarah and I were talking before this class that there will be some prizes sent to you for whoever comes up with the most intricate, unique. Obviously, we're not going to be judging on art because we can't do that. I'm not an artist, but we really want to see the learning in your models. And I'll talk about some of the materials you can use to make these after the video. So after you know kind of how you want to do this. And so if I can have everybody right now at the top of your paper. So everybody has a piece of paper.
Allison, before we move on,
sure.
Do you want to tell them what some of the prizes might be?
Sure, just to get them excited.
Maybe not all of them, but you know.
So I'm definitely thinking, obviously we have it could be a Junior Ranger or a Whitfield hat. And I have a really awesome pair of Sibley's binoculars and a Sibley's field guide. So you can see all of the different birds and plants and animals that are in your area. And so those will be some of the prizes.
And we might be able to add in like maybe, don't quote me on this one yet, but like a digital microscope that you can attach to your phone and be able to take with you out in the field to go exploring. So that's, you
guys are going to make some super cool 3D models. Yeah. Okay. So for your paper, and I'll put this in the chat so you can make sure that you're spelling it right. Rio Bravo.
You have one question, Allison.
Yep. Oh, yes.
Do I have to have like lined paper notebook or just like plain?
Either one, whichever you have in front of you, it'll work just fine. This is just for your learning. So whatever's easiest for you. That's the nice thing is this is adopted to how you can take notes. So you guys will be taking notes and you will be writing vocabulary words, and you'll also be drawing at the same time. So you want at least 2 pieces of paper. So any questions on that? That's good. Let's make sure that we're all on the same page. Everybody good? All right. So the first thing you're going to do is on your paper, write Rio Bravo Part 1. And Rio Bravo refers to the old river, or what I like to say, and you can write this underneath, is it translates to the wild river. So we're going to be looking at the Rio Grande, but it's not going to be a straight river like you may see it today in one place. So if you go visit the Rio Grande, it's always in the same place, right? Well, way back before, I'm not going to say before humans, because that's not true, but I would say before large communities and civilizations. We're going to be looking in the past at how the river looked and why it looked that way. And we're going to be talking about the human impact component that one of you, I believe it was Jonathan, brought up. How are humans connected to all of these habitats? So that's what we're going to be doing today. And I want you guys to be thinking about this essential question. And so I want you to write this down, and I'm going to put it in the chat right now as I'm going to type it in. What important environmental concerns should be addressed to create a healthy, that's the key word, their ecosystem in the middle Rio Grande, which is the habitat next to the river? Okay. Oh, I spelled Grand wrong. Oh, we need to make sure that, spelled it. There we go. Rio Grande. Okay, so what important environmental concerns should be addressed to create a healthy ecosystem in the middle Rio Grande? Okay, so you guys are going to be looking at those connections as we go through this. So as you're writing this down, really quick, did somebody want to raise your hand and chime in just a thought that you have on that question, just to start with? If you don't have one yet, because you're formulating it, that's okay. But does anyone have a thought that they want to kind of throw out to the group? And you can just unmute or raise your hand. We're such a small group, you could probably just unmute.
What about all the littering in the Rio Grande?
Yeah, so we see a lot of trash. That's definitely an environmental concern. And the fact that you brought that up, that trash changes the quality of the water. And when I ask you guys, do we use the Rio Grande? Do we use the water in the river? You guys nod this way or this way, yes or no? Do we use the water? Yeah, we do. We water our fields, our plants, right? We get our water, our fresh water. The plants, the animals need this water. So litter affects so many different things, but not just the plants and animals. It affects the most important component in the ecosystem, and that is an abiotic part called the soil. The soil is the key to everything, including the habitat we're going to talk about today. So thank you so much, Faith, for bringing that up. Trash is very important. That is a very big concern. So you can be thinking about that as you're watching this. Anything else? We have time maybe for one more before we start. Any other concern?
I know I'm not a student, but I'm learning anyway, so I'm gonna pop in, Allison, just because I can. How about the amount of water in the river? Like, I feel like I haven't lived here my whole life, but I've heard stories about how the river used to be much larger, and now the water is not, there's not as much water in the river.
Yeah, so the water amount has changed, and we've also noticed it, the groundwater level, which is something you guys will be writing down as one of your vocab words, is getting lower and lower and lower. And the groundwater is the key component to this habitat. It is the most important part of what makes the habitat next to the river and makes it work. So without giving too much away, because you guys will be learning throughout this video. If there's no questions, I'll just kind of pause for a minute. Any questions before we start? You guys all have your paper and pencil? Okay. All right, so the video will prompt you on what you'll be needing to do. So you'll see vocab words. I'll try to pause it just to give you a moment to jot those down. And then you'll be drawing. So make sure you have a blank piece of paper next to you because you're going to be recreating this during the video. Okay. All right, you guys ready? Okay, so I'm going to now screen share. And I'm gonna make it bigger so you guys can all see it. Make sure you guys adjust your sound on your side. I'm gonna turn it up all the way when the music stops so you can hear me as I'm talking in the video. I should also say that this area that you're looking at right here, this is where I work. This is Whitfield Wildlife Conservation Area. So this is actually in Belen. So this is my classroom here. So you can get a little sneak peek. All right, so without further ado, here we go. And Sarah, just chime in if there's a question and someone I can't see. So.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Allison, and I work at Whitfield Wildlife Conservation Area.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erin, and I work for Ciudad Soil and Water Conservation District. We run River Exchange, which is a 5th grade program in Albuquerque.
And today we have a very special lesson for you. We are going to recreate the Rio Grande. So to get ready for our lessons today, you all are going to need some pieces of paper, pencils, markers, and we'll see you back here in a few minutes. Okay, well, welcome back, everybody. So we'd like to talk a little bit about how this is going to look for you all. We're going to do a couple different models of what the Rio Grande looked like over many, many years.
Oh, like before humans were here?
Yeah, like way before we had big cities like Albuquerque.
Oh, cool.
And Los Lunas. And so we really have to think about how we've used the land and how it's changed. Does anybody think it's changed quite a bit? Yeah, I do too. Well, let's actually look at how those changes played a part as we go through this. So what we have to do first is recreate what the river looked like before we had those big cities.
Wow.
And so we have to think about what it looked like and why it looked that way. And so that's what we're going to start with today as we define some terms.
Okay, guys, so some of the first vocabulary words, and you can just jot these down, and I will explain what these are throughout the video. So you have ecosystem, abiotic, biotic, habitat, riparian, and you may be familiar with some of these already, and then you can just expand on them later.
Okay, so here we have on the floor our model river, right? And so before we get into this a little bit, let's define some terms. Does anybody know what an ecosystem is? Aaron, what do you think an ecosystem is or might be?
I think it has to do with like plants and, animals that live together.
Okay, so plants and animals living together. Absolutely. So you're thinking outside, right? Nothing we'll find inside. Absolutely. So your first definition in your notebooks is going to be ecosystem. So I'd like everybody to write down ecosystem. Ecosystem is spelled. And by the way, I had to make this video for young kids, so you guys already know how to spell ecosystem, so you could just disregard me spelling it out loud. E-C-O-S-Y-S-T-E-M. An ecosystem is a place where living and non-living parts are connected. Oh. Now, what exactly does that mean? Living and non-living. I bet we can define those in different ways. So when we're thinking of living and non-living, I'd like you to write down now in your notebooks the word abiotic. How do we spell that? A-B-I-O-T-I-C. Abiotic. Abiotic refers to everything in the ecosystem that's not living. Did you know there were not living things in the ecosystem? What could those be, right? Well, some of the non-living things in big categories would be the sun, and the soil, and the air that we breathe, and of course, talking about the Rio Grande, water. So those are the 4 big main categories for non-living things in the ecosystem.
So can we, that was sun, soil, air,
and water.
Cool.
And the living things, we need a word for that, right? So if abiotic things are non-living, biotic things are living. So what are some of the things that you all might think that would be living things in the ecosystem? I know you named some earlier, right?
Like plants.
Plants, that would be one. Animals, that would be another one. Absolutely. And there are a lot of plants and animals, and we could be here all day to talk about all the plants and animals. And so we'll actually see some of the plants and animals as we go through this. So talking about plants and animals, let's talk about the word habitat. Habitat is spelled H-A-B-I-T-A-T. What is a habitat? You have an idea?
It's like a home?
It's like a home, right? So a habitat is a place where plants and animals live. And today we're actually going to be talking about a specific habitat. And this is a really big word. And this specific habitat has to do with plants and animals that live near water.
Yeah.
This is called a riparian habitat.
Wow.
A riparian habitat is spelled R-I-P-A-R-I-A-N. Now, what in the world does riparian mean? You may not have heard that before, but you may have heard the term floodplain, right? A riparian habitat is in the floodplain, and it means it's a habitat near water.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about plants and animals that live near water. And what's the water source we're talking about?
The Rio Grande.
The Rio Grande, absolutely. So now what I'd like everyone to do is get a blank piece of paper without any writing on it. So put all your definitions to the side, and I'd like you to recreate what we have here on our floor. So if you look what we have here, I have this kind of squiggly cloth with another cloth. What do you think that squiggly cloth might represent?
I think it looks like water.
It is. In fact, this is the Rio Grande. So I'd like everybody to draw a squiggly line on your paper. And then what is this kind of lighter brown color? What do you think that might be?
Probably the ground or dirt.
Dirt, absolutely. So we have our... And I should say, while you guys are drawing your squiggly line, make sure that it's not straight. That's a very important part of the old river. Dirt, our ground behind the water. So I'd like everybody to kind of square off on your paper where that ground would be. And then of course we have to have directions, right? So we have north. So if everyone can put north on one side of your paper and south on the other side of your paper. And this is what we have to start out with. Now we're missing a lot, aren't we?
Yeah.
Some of those things we talked about, like plants and animals. But we're going to get into all that. So we're going to recreate this. And this is going to be called the Rio Bravo activity. So on the very top of your paper, I would like everybody to write down Rio Bravo. What do you think that might mean?
I think Rio is Spanish for river.
Okay, so when we know we're talking about the Rio Grande, right? Okay, and Bravo, what does that mean?
That's a tricky one.
Well, if you remembered, our river isn't straight, right? So we call this the wild river. So this is going to be an example of the old river, the river before there were cities and before there was large civilizations here. So we're going to recreate the river on what it used to look like many, many years ago. And we need to add our plants and animals. So let's give everybody a few minutes to finish their drawings. Okay, so now, Erin, we need to start adding some things down here, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, before we add any plants or animals, we need to add these, and this is going to have to do with the changing river. So these are called sandbars. Sandbars.
Where should I put them?
Yeah, first of all, what is a sandbar? A sandbar is, it seems like a mound or a hill of sand, right?
Yeah.
So a sandbar is going to form where the river changes direction. So I think we should place these in all of the places our river changes direction. All right. Excellent. So what I would like you guys to do at home is on your river model, I'd like you to place sandbars in all of the places where your river is changing direction. Those are going to be important. And in fact, those could even be habitat for plants and animals. And we'll see that when we start getting our plants and animals. Okay.
Okay, so the sandbars are going to be the hills next to a waterway. So this would be an example of the river where this man's standing and you guys will be drawing. But remember, you're going to put them where your river changes direction because the water flow is what's actually pushing that sand up and creating that mound. So wherever the water changes direction, you're going to have a large area of sand and soil. All right.
Okay, so now that we have our sandbars down, the next thing we're going to need are large cottonwood trees.
My favorite.
Yes, cottonwood trees are important in the riparian habitat because they need lots of water. And do they get their water from the rain? It doesn't rain a lot, right?
No.
So cottonwood trees are in the riparian habitat because they get their water from the ground. So we need a high groundwater level for cottonwood trees. But we don't want to put them in the river because they'll get flooded, right? So where do you think we should place our large cottonwood trees?
Maybe close to the river, but not too far away.
Perfect. And do we want to put them close together or far apart?
Well, when I look at a cottonwood forest, I often see trees together, but not like on top of each other.
Yeah, so they have room to grow, right?
Yes.
But the seeds that create more trees travel close together. And we also want to put them along the whole river since we'll see them and their habitat everywhere. So now I'd like everybody to add large cottonwood trees to your model and place them close to the water, but not too far away, so they're still in the riparian habitat.
So one of the things you want to remember about cottonwood trees is they need to have room to grow really large because they're trees that grow fast and then they die off quickly. And by quickly, they usually only live about 100 years. And so you want to, if you want your cottonwood trees to survive on your river model, you want to make sure that they're not too close together. And you also want to make sure they're not in the water, because if the water is going to expand and contract, get larger when it floods and then go back, like how Sarah was talking about, it's really low right now. You want to make sure that you think about that where you're placing your trees. But remember, they need the groundwater. So the groundwater needs to be high up or their roots won't get that water. They need to be, their roots need to be submerged in water constantly. So that's kind of it's a picky tree in some ways. So, all right.
So one thing I think is important to define now, since we talked about cottonwood trees, would be groundwater level and why that matters. So in the riparian habitat, the groundwater level is really high, which means the water underneath the ground is really close to the surface. How close do you think?
I don't know, a couple feet?
A couple feet, right? Yes, I would say that in a riparian habitat, it's going to be anywhere from 1 to 2 feet all the way to around 8 or 9 feet. When you get lower than that, you start getting to a whole different habitat. And we'll look at what that habitat will have in it in a few minutes. But the groundwater level is really important in a riparian habitat. So the next one, we have our large cottonwood trees. Now we need our small cottonwood trees. And these are called saplings. So these are the trees that are just starting out that don't have their roots in the groundwater yet. So where do you think we would put our small saplings?
In areas where they can get enough water.
Yeah, so in areas that they could get enough water, but we probably don't want to put them right in the water. So we want to place these really close to the river's edge. So they might get some of that water, but not too much to get washed away. They also need plenty of sunlight. So we want to make sure that they're in open areas. So what I would like you all to do now is to get small cottonwood trees, to draw them on your models and place them close to the water. So the next plant actually needs to be touching the water. So this definitely needs to be in the riparian habitat, and it needs the water. And those are cattails.
Ooh, they're very small.
What kind of animals might use cattails as their habitat?
Well, when I see cattails near water, I often see birds flying in and out of them.
Absolutely. Birds love cattails. They can hide in them. Some other animals might be bullfrogs or even snakes. And I know dragonflies and other insects love to hang out in cattails. So cattails make
So just really quick, in this picture, when you're looking at it, all of that tall grass looking stuff, that's right around the river's edge, or excuse me, this is a little pond actually. All of that those are all cattails. And you can see some of them are brown and some of them are green. The brown ones are the ones that didn't survive from the previous year. And that's because the cattails really depend on that healthy water. When Faith was talking about earlier about littering in the water and changing the water quality, so many plants and animals depend on that quality, especially an example like these cattails. They cannot survive if the water level and quality are not perfect. In other words, they need to be touching the water, but not submerged. And they need to be, in somewhere in the water. They can't survive up on that hill that you'll see right behind that pond. I should also mention, this is kind of a cool fact. This pond is actually the Rio Grande. So you can see the water because this was a giant hole that was dug. And so the hole filled in with that water. So this is standing water that's in this area year round to create habitat.
great habitats for many, many different animals and fish. And they always grow next to each other. So you always want to put the cattails really close to one another.
Lone cattail over there.
There we go. So now I'd like all of you to add cattails. And why they're called cattails is because all of those seeds are found in that giant seed pod. And that giant seed pod looks like a cattail. So it almost looks like giant grass. So I'd like you all to draw cattails on your models and make sure that they're touching the water. That's very important, but not in the middle because they couldn't survive there. They just need a little bit of water. So you want to put them along the edge of your river. So what Okay, so now that we have our cattails down, the next thing we need are grassy meadows. Where do you think our grassy meadows would go? Large open fields of different kinds of grass.
I don't think they're right next to the river.
No, because they'd get flooded, right?
Yeah.
So we have to make sure they're not touching the river, but we can have them close. What about far away? Have we seen grassy meadows outside of the riparian habitat?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So grassy meadows can survive in the riparian habitat and outside of the riparian habitat. So I'd like you to put grassy meadows all over on your drawings, inside, close to the river, and far away from the river. So an example of a grassy meadow that's right next to the river would be like a wetlands. So when you have grass that's halfway submerged in water, so that would be called like a wetlands. And this is at Whitfield. This is a large salt grass meadow, which survives kind of having that groundwater high up. But then you'll also have grassy meadows and grasses that can survive in the upland habitat too. So just some examples. So we've talked a lot about the riparian habitat, and we had you guys place your grassy meadows outside of the riparian habitat, but we don't know what that habitat's called. So we call that the upland habitat. And that means that the groundwater level is so far beneath the surface that none of the plants get their water from the ground, right? They all get their water from the rain, which means they need to be able to live in extremely dry situations, right?
Yeah.
So we do have some plants that we call them upland shrubs. And some of these shrubs that you might see could be a sand sage, could be a four-winged saltbush, or a cactus, or a broom dahlia. These are common upland shrubs that you'll find that can survive in extremely dry conditions. And so we're going to put all of these upland shrubs way far away from the river on either side. So what I would like you all to do is put and label some of the upland shrubs that we talked about today on your drawings, and make sure you label it upland habitat. So probably something that you'll want to go back and do is draw different kinds of shrubs, and we'll talk about that when this video is over. So right now you can just draw some and then you can go back and label them later. So we've added a lot of plants here, but what are we missing, Erin?
Animals.
Animals. Okay, so some of the animals that we might find in these habitats would be a turtle, and I have a duck, and a really big bird called a great blue heron.
Ooh.
What do you have?
I have a New Mexico whiptail, which is a lizard, a roadrunner, a cottontail rabbit, and a great horned owl.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I'll lay mine down first. So I would like you all to write turtle in your for your drawings. And my turtle is in the water. So a turtle can survive in the water and on land. So we'll put him in 50-50, right?
Okay.
So he's definitely in our riparian habitat. What about a duck? Would we find that in the water?
Usually.
Usually. So let's have you all put your ducks inside the water. And how about a great blue heron? We know they like to eat fish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So most likely our heron's gonna want to be at least near the water, right?
Oh.
And
Here's
let's,
the water animals.
right? And let's see what else.
So the New Mexico whiptail is a lizard, and I usually see him running around the forest floor under
Mhm.
like cottonwood trees.
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
near the meadow.
So and he runs pretty fast. And what is he running from?
Maybe the roadrunner.
Ooh, because
Or-
roadrunners are carnivores, right? And they run really fast. They can actually run up to 18 miles an hour.
Wow.
And they're chasing the lizards. So do we want to put those habitats together?
I think so.
That would make sense. So I'd like you all to put a lizard and a roadrunner somewhere on your models. What else do we have?
Well, now I have a cottontail rabbit.
Okay, we have a cottontail rabbit. And are they herbivores?
Yes, they eat plants.
They eat plants. Herbivores eat plants, right? So where do we think our rabbit might live?
I think maybe close to a grassy meadow because there's a lot of nice little grasses for them to eat.
To eat? Absolutely. Okay, so everybody put your rabbit down where you think the rabbit might live on your models. And our last one,
The great horned owl.
horned owl. And I see a lot of owl pellets, and I see a lot of nests and areas where owls go inside big trees. And what's a big tree that we laid down here today?
Cottonwood.
The big cottonwood tree. So I'd like you all to place your owls in or near a large cottonwood tree. Okay, Erin, wow, we just recreated the Rio Bravo.
Yeah.
We added plants and animals, but what are some things that we didn't add?
Like humans?
Humans and homes.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot that we're
Roads.
gonna look at that's gonna have changed. But what I'd like you all to now write down as a question on either the bottom of your drawing or a new piece of paper, I'd like everybody to write down, how has this habitat changed because of us?
And I want you guys to write this too.
And I want you to think about some of those changes and answer those before our next activity. And something good to be thinking about throughout all of this is, what are ways that we can help once we know how these habitats have changed over the years?
It's a great question.
So I hope you all enjoyed our activity today. And if you think of any more plants or animals that you can add to your models, do that right now. And we'll see you back here for our next activity.
All right. Okay, how's everybody? Time to wake up, right? All right. Did I stop screen sharing, right, Sarah? Okay, cool. Okay, how's everyone doing? Get up, everyone do a quick stretch. We have about 9 minutes left. Whew, that's a lot of writing, right? Can somebody unmute, kind of tell me how that went? Do you guys have any questions or any clarifications on anything that was talked about there? Anything that was so quick you were like, oh, I didn't quite get any of that? How's everybody doing and feeling?
Got a lot of thumbs up.
Everybody feels pretty comfortable with their drawings? Yeah, you feel like you can take off from there? All right, so again, kind of some of the most important things when thinking about the riparian habitat is you really want to think about that groundwater. So that's really important when you're drawing and labeling all of those plants and animals. And that question that it ended with, how has this changed because of us? That's kind of the question that you're going to be thinking about for next week. But as for what you'll be doing, and I'll put this homework here in the chat in a minute, is you all are going to be recreating this with a 3D model of the Rio Bravo, okay? So that is what you guys are going to be doing this week. And you can make this out of cardboard. You can make it little, you can make it big, but I want you guys to use real things that you have around the house. You could use construction paper. I don't want you to go out and buy anything, but I want you guys to, you know, use your Legos if you still have those, right, from a couple years ago. Oh, Ariana, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
You could use a blanket for the river.
Yeah. So kind of how I had that cloth, right? You guys are welcome to kind of go off of the same idea that Erin and I showed you there, and you can use a cloth. And however you want to do it, I'd love you guys to be able to bring it to class. If for some reason it's something that you can only have for a certain amount of time, take a picture and show me the picture, but I'd really like you to bring those to the next class. And I'd like you to write in your notebooks a couple more things. I want you to add to them from what you saw today. So I want you to add 3 plants and 5 animals that are in the riparian habitat. So you will look for some plants and animals that are in that habitat. And a resource I'm going to send to you is this Boscape Education Training Guide. This online PDF has so many examples and relationships of the Rio Grande and how it's changed over time. So that will help you. And remember, this is kind of a fun little challenge. So I'm looking for unique, and I'm looking for things that you guys will actually expand upon for the next class. So kind of, let me have some reactions. What did you guys think of the videos? How's everybody feeling? Did you learn something? Did you guys enjoy that? Give me some reactions. Naomi, I see you're nodding your head. Let me pick on you if that's okay. So tell me a little, just give me a reaction to what we just went through there.
That was pretty cool. I liked how you guys did it, put it piece by piece. And I didn't know like the cottonwood trees needed so much water. And I like never thought how you can only like ever find them in the Bosque area. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. I actually just learned that recently, so you are already beating me. I was wondering, and something else I wondered was, they're all the same age. So what's going to happen at the same time? Have you noticed that they're all large? So that also is going to be kind of something that happens, is they're all going to die off at the same time too. And that might be something to think about for next week. But for right now, you guys are going to be recreating the river. And something else to think about, which I didn't really emphasize too much in this video, is flooding. So I want you to really think about the concept of flooding. This river flooded and receded and flooded and receded a lot more than we see today. So as you're adding your new plants and animals to your river model, you want to think about the river possibly flooding in places where those sandbars are built up. And you have to think about, oh, I don't want to place, a cottonwood tree there because it'll get flooded. So I want you to see some kind of critical thinking going on in your models. Any other reactions? We have about 4 minutes left. Yeah, go ahead, Ariana.
I really liked it. How you explained everything, even though it was made for little kids, like you said, I actually found it like super helpful because you described what the words meant, you spelled them out, and it was just super descriptive. Is that the word? Yeah, you described it very well, so I found it very helpful.
Okay, well, thank you. And I was hoping that it would answer most questions. So if there are questions still, definitely ask me. Well, we're gonna, so the other two, the next 2 weeks, we're gonna kind of look at similar videos, but they're gonna get a little bit harder. So it'll be, this one was kind of starting off to lay the groundwork, and then we're gonna kind of build off of them. And so I originally made that first video for 4th grade, and then I realized, oh my gosh, there's some stuff that I learned during the video, right? And so it's definitely a nice jumping tool for these other videos are going to get into a little more complex relationships. So anything else? Any other kind of comments? Or
Audrey has a question or a comment maybe.
Go ahead.
When is it due?
So next week, yeah, that's a great question. So next Thursday at 9, when I first meet with you guys, we're going to spend the first kind of probably 10, maybe even 15 minutes. And I'm going to have you guys kind of go over and show me what you've made. And so you'll have a whole week to kind of work on this, add to it, and really just take your time. And if you're thinking of a concept, you're like, I'm not sure, is this in the riparian habitat? Send it. Just again, let me post my email. I think it kind of got lost there at the top. So if you didn't write it down yet, my email is this, and I'll be sending you guys through Sarah a follow-up with some other resources. So I'll give you the Bosque education training as a resource, and I'll send you some other resources you can look at to kind of help you create these models too. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you.
Sure, no problem. Okay, 1 minute left. Anything else? You guys have a question about the homework or a question about or comment on anything? Well, I'd like to say that I enjoyed you guys all. This was so fun. And this was my first time interacting with my video and doing it with you guys. So I'm really excited for next week. We're going to have some fun ways we're going to build on this. And I hope you guys got a lot of learning in today and you can relate it to some of the things you learned about last couple weeks. And we'll continue to build on those relationships and learn. So